And just real quick, we'll go ahead and talk about some Z-Sketch stuff that's a little bit new. So first, let's go ahead and I'll show you how to Z-Sketch on top of an existing mesh. And it's real simple to do. We'll clear our canvas, go into Simple Brush, and we'll grab a Z-Sphere. We'll grab our head, we'll go into Subtool, and we'll append that Z-Sphere. And what we need to do is move the Z-Sphere inside of that head. So go ahead and turn on X symmetry, and we'll hit E, and we'll scale this thing down. We'll hit W, and we'll move them up. And we can go into transparent mode. Just move that right inside of his head. Doesn't really matter how big or little it is, as long as it's just inside the mesh. So we've got our Z-Sphere, and we've got our head. Go back into draw mode by hitting Q, and we'll turn transparent off. And if we hit Shift A, go ahead and sketch one. We'll hit Shift A, and now we're in Z-Sketch mode. And now when we Z-Sketch, it'll actually conform itself to the surface of this mesh that we have here. And go ahead and sketch some Civil War mustache on this dude. And if we hide his head, you'll see it's actually conforming to that surface, which is totally cool. You go into the armature brush, of course, you can go and just add right off of there. And of course you can move these around too, using the move brush. And scale. You can scale them down. Smooth. And you're in move mode. So just like all the other functionality of Z-sketching, it's all still there. Only you're doing it on top of a mesh. And I'm going to talk about unified skin real quick. We went over unified skin in part 1. There's a few changes. You'll notice that you now have a polished surface with this little closed hole, which has the same effect that we talked about earlier. And when you crank that up, you'll actually get a border option now. And what that does, hit polyframe. You'll notice every one of these strokes that we made actually made a group. So it's actually going to make a border around all of these Z-sketches. And so with polished surface on 7 and border on 4, we can, and the allow try button on, that'll allow those triangles. The exact same stuff that we went over when we were talking about poly painting and group loops. We'll go ahead and make unified skin. And that'll throw a unified skin up here in your tools selection. However, you can also hit A, and that'll give you a preview of actually what it's doing with those polish and border things selected. So if you don't want to polish it at all, we'll go out of preview mode and we'll hit A again. Now we're getting unified skin. You've also get subdivisions now in unified skin. So I'll go ahead and hit A to get out of that. I'll crank that up to 2 subdivisions and we'll hit A again. And now our unified skin has subdivisions. And we'll go out of polyframe mode. You can actually sculpt on this if you want to. See if it's anything you'd like to use. And actually, the reason it's behaving like that is because under brush, I've got mask by poly groups on. So every one of those groups, the first one I'm selecting, it's brushing on that, and then it's stopping as I get to another poly group. So under brush, I'm going to make that back down to 0. And we'll turn polyframe off. Now when I sculpt, it'll be nice and clean over that unified skin. So anyways, you can go in here and sculpt on your unified skin if you want. However, if you hit A to go out of preview, it's going to ask you, you've modified it. Do you want to make a Polymesh 3D out of those modifications, or do you want to discard those changes? We'll go ahead and make a Polymesh 3D out of that one too. So now, when we go up here, we'll go into our subtool menu, and we'll go ahead and append those 2 that we made. We've got our skin Z-sphere that had the poly groups and the group loops. And we got the skin Z-sphere that we just made. It's just the unified skin. And turn on the skin Z, this first one here. And if we go into polyframe, you'll notice that actually every one of those strokes actually got an edge loop around it. So of course, if you do go to brush and crank that up to 100 again, mask by poly groups, go into move mode, you can actually start moving those out and about. So a really quick way to start doing some hard edge stuff right away. Also in the other one, we've got polygroups in here too. If you want to just go ahead and make that all one polygroup, you can go to polygroups and just group visible. Now it's all one. Turn our head back on. Now we've got our unified skin mustache. And you can start sculpting on that right away. And under geometry, it's actually got 3 subdivision levels because we actually had it up to subdivision level 3 when we made it. So you can step up and down through that unified skin.